watching Jtv, your #1 Christian channel.
Good afternoon, viewers. My name is Bernard Mwangi, your host today for We Do Recover. And today we have a wonderful guest. His name is Bwana George Irongo, but he will tell us quite a lot more about himself. And for those of our viewers who are online, wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And today we have a wonderful, wonderful story. It's not every day that we get to hear inspirational stories. I was about to say inspiring stories, but it's still a story which is unfolding.
Yes.
So, Bwana George, karibu sana to We Do Recover. This is a show, dear viewers, which mainly looks at issues to do with mental health, and especially like today, we're going to speak about addictions recovery. And that is what Bwana George has come to share with us about his journey, addictions recovery. So, Bwana George, karibu, and please tell us a bit about your background.
Thank you, Benji.
Yes.
And first and foremost, thank you for having me here and to share with you, and also to share with our viewers and with our members of public. So, yeah, my name is George Irungu. I'm from Nairobi. I'm a family man. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm blessed to have a family, and I have 4 kids.
Wow.
One completed Form 4 and just about to transition to college now, and Form 2, Form 1, and Standard 6 and Toto in baby class.
Hey, congratulations.
Yes, so
congratulations.
I thank God.
So you've lived all your life in Nairobi?
Yes, I would say
okay.
I've lived all my life in Nairobi, and I was born at Pumwani Maternity. Those years, it was the only maternity in Nairobi, as you all know. I was born in the 60s, 68. So
awesome.
So I'm blessed, you know, with years, and so I grew up in areas of Pangani. So my dad used to work with Kenya Army, and my mom used to work with the former Nairobi City Council.
Yes.
Yeah. So I started off schooling in Ainsworth Street Primary School. Nowadays, I think it's Pangani Primary.
Yes.
And then now halfway, I think I was in Standard 3, Standard 4. My dad was an alcoholic. So actually, in my childhood, I knew nothing apart from violence in our home, because my dad would come like every day, very drunk, you know, fight my mom, throw us out of the house, wee hours of the morning, you know. Many a times we spent the night with a watchman out there, you know. And so eventually, my dad and mom separated. So on separation, my mom transferred us to North High Ridge Primary School in Parklands.
Yes.
So I started Standard 4. Now in Parklands, and Standard 4 to Standard 7. I did my CPE then. Thank God I passed, and then I got a call up to Jamhuri High School in Ngara.
Yes.
So that's where I did my high school. Now, so that's where actually my life in addiction started. I used to have a desk mate who actually introduced me to using. So around Form 3 there, he's the one who came one afternoon. He came with a roll of weed, marijuana, and he opened his textbook, showed it to me, and told me, you know what this is. But by then, he had introduced me to cigarette smoking.
So already smoking, and you have had some some access to alcohol already.
To to weed. Weed first. Marijuana. So he introduced me to cigarette smoking, and then to weed. So I tell you, Benji, I don't know, call you Benji or Bernard. I tell you, Bernard.
Yes.
From the time that I smoked my first roll of marijuana, my life changed totally. From there henceforth.
So you're talking about 16, 17 years old?
Like, yeah, around 15, 16 there.
Yes.
So my life changed totally. So I don't know, it just did something to me, yeah? I became this very chaotic, very rebellious young man. And I even started now looking for my own supply of weed. Yeah.
Okay.
And I started going to discos over the weekends. And then I was, of course, introduced to alcohol. So I had to look for ways of supporting my habit. So I started first selling my own textbooks from school. Okay. Those days we used to be issued textbooks from high school.
From high school.
Yeah. And so I would sell all my textbooks, these second-hand guys in town, buy weed, and then started chewing mirror then. And then, of course, at times I started missing classes, yeah, and I became targeted, yeah, by the teachers. But there I was a very bright young man. I had potential, you know? And I was very good in sports also. In Form 2 at Jamhuri School, I was playing for the national team. Yeah. So, and Jamhuri then had a very good team. Yeah. In Nairobi. Used to go for nationals and all that.
Yes.
So I started using, I dropped out of extracurricular activities. I started selling my stuff. Yes. My home clothes. You know, and then in the end, I started stealing from my classmates, and I started stealing from home, just to feed my habit. Yeah? Yes. So at around Form 3, end of Form 3, that's when I was first. My mom didn't know how to handle this young man who has suddenly changed, you know. And remember, she's now a single parent. Yeah. Yes. She doesn't know what to do with this young man. So for the first time, she just went to Parklands police station, and one morning I had skived school. So I'm sleeping and I'm woken up by the police. Hey, kijana, amka. You know, 2 slaps, you know. So for the first time I was arrested, put in a cell for quite some time. So so one thing they wanted to know is, where was I selling all this stuff? Yeah? Because now you're selling things from home. From home. My own stuff. Yes. I'm finished with my clothes, good clothes that I had. Anything valuable that I had already sold. And I'm stealing from home. Yes. And even cutlery. I used to sell even cutlery, imagine. So, look at me in handcuffs. Been walked all the way from Parklands police station to Ngara. There used to be this marketplace. It's still there. It's called Okshaw. I used to call it Okshaw. Okshaw. Yeah, it's still there. It's so that's where I used to sell all this stuff. So look at me, a young man in handcuffs, been walked through the estate. Everybody seeing me to Ngara, barefooted, by the way, barefooted. Oh, because that was the way they got you from the bed. Yes, because that's the way they got me from the bed. So, so I ended up, a few guys were arrested. We were able to get a few things. So that was my journey in my early usage now. Yes. Of drugs and alcohol. Yes. So, so later on, I find myself in Mombasa. Okay. Now, Benji, I have also graduated to smoking heroin. So I'll tell you how I find myself in Mombasa. Yes, that's a question I was about to ask. So we used to get our supply from Eastleigh. And so this time round, there is no stock of heroin in Nairobi.
Yes.
And guys now are getting these cravings, they're getting withdrawals, you know.
Yes.
So we hear that there is supply in Mombasa.
That's the time of, was it?
It was now
brown. It was brown heroin.
Brown sugar. Brown sugar, brown heroin.
Yes.
So yes, we used to call it brown sugar. Yeah. So the only supply we had, it's only now it's in Mombasa. So with a few guys, we hike, we take a bus to Mombasa. With withdrawals,
sniffling,
anxiety, sniffing, trying to smoke weed. Weed is not enough, you know. Trying to take alcohol, that's not enough, you know, because you become sick. Yeah.
Yes.
You know, once you go into actually heroin withdrawal, you become, you know, you're vomiting. You become like, you feel malaria-ish, weak, you know, headaches and all that, puking, you know. So, and the only cure for that feeling, is using
another dose.
So we find ourselves in Mombasa. Of course, the little cash that I had, we use. It's finished. So my guys, they find their way back to Nairobi with enough stock. And
so they are coming to sell.
Yes, now enough stock to come and sell. So me, I'm left on my own, because for me, I was just a user.
Okay.
Yeah? So I find myself stranded in Mombasa. Of course, there was this dance that, of course, a few days guys would host me. You know? But of course, it's nothing. It's just a kakichochoro somewhere. There's a box on the ground for you know, and being sent for errands, you know, stuff like that. Yeah. So, of course, in the end, they realize that I have no more cash, and there's no way I can get cash, you know. So they throw me out. So I find myself on the streets
in Mombasa. Strange town to you.
Strange town to me. I know no one there. So I remember I slept at Makadara grounds for like 3 or 4 days. Yeah. Then there was a nightclub across. I could see the disco lights and that. Yeah. So I walked to that nightclub.
So raise your voice, please.
Yes.
Yes.
So I managed to, you know, guys who use, they know each other.
Yeah. And you wonder how.
You wonder how. There's that, what is it called? That chemistry.
Yes.
That you have.
Yes.
So I somehow managed to befriend a peddler.
Yes.
Who used to sell weed at that club. So I tell him my story. So he tells me, stop using weed, stop using heroin, use weed. He wasn't using heroin. So he takes me in. So he'd give me a certain number of rolls to sell.
Yes.
And for that, I would get my little cash to buy food. And then he took me to his place where they used to live, quite a group of guys.
Yes.
In Kisauni. So for the next 2-3 years, I'm in Mombasa.
That's walking distance, Kisauni to Makadara.
Yes.
It's walking distance,
it's walking distance. But now I'm also earning some little cash. So for the next 2-3 years, I actually never used to see sunlight. Because we used to work from around 7 to 6 in the morning when the nightclubs are open.
So you're doing the opposite rush hour.
Yes, exactly.
Watu wakimbia kazini, wakimbia nyumbani.
Mimi nakimbia kulala. Yeah. Watu wakienda home, mimi ndio naenda kazini.
Wow.
So so for the next 2-3 years, I'm working as my front was a car wash.
Okay.
That was my front. Actually, there used to be cops from Central Police Station because it was just near.
Yes,
they used to see me and they knew I'm a car wash, night car wash. Yeah, because I would wash the taxis, you know, revelers' cars, you know. Some who had come to know me, guys that I used to sell drugs to. You know. So for extra cash, I used to wash the vehicles. So I was known as a car wash. Actually, my nickname was Car Wash. Not George, car wash.
Car wash.
Because they didn't know where I'm from, my background. You know, they just knew this young man from Nairobi. So, so I survived for the next 3 or 4 years in Mombasa doing that, stealing here and there.
Yes.
Yeah, and using, and so one time I'm arrested at night. There is this. There was some big conference in Mombasa then. I think the president was then going to Mombasa, and there was this soap, Msako.
So they decided to clean the streets.
They clean the streets, all guys on the streets. So unluckily, I'm also picked up. So after I'm picked up, we're taken to Central Police Station. And then one cop looks at me. Said, wewe kijana, si wewe ndio tulikuwa tunatafuta. Si wewe ndio tulikuwa tumekutafuta siku mingi, kaa kando. Wah, I wonder what's this now. So I'm taken, now the following morning, I'm taken into a room for grilling or interviewing.
Yes.
So I'm told they have known that I'm a peddler, that I even sell heroin, I sell cocaine. Yeah. So we need you to tell us your source.
What?
So I tell them, of course, by then I'm becoming a hardcore.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Pole pole. And street smart. Yeah. So I tell him, hiyo kazi sifanyi na sijawahi fanya. Evidence iko wapi? So like for like a week, 2 weeks, I'm in the cells. They are trying to break me down. Yeah?
Yes.
So eventually, I find myself in court. By the time I'm being taken to court, I don't know what charges I'm going to stand for. Yeah. So I get there, and I'm charged for being a vagrant.
Okay.
Person of no abode. You know, just like a street boy. So, guilty or not guilty? I say not guilty. So I'm thrown into remand. Remand for another 2 weeks. No, I stayed for like 3 months in remand. Yeah,
okay.
Those days. Yeah, you'd go for those two weeks. Mention. And so eventually, I was thrown into Shimolatewa for 6 months. Yeah, found guilty, Shimolatewa 6 months. Wow, my first time in jail. So I really suffered. I was a young boy, and so I did my 6 months. And those days, I remember very well, because sometimes I think back, and I really see God in my journey.
Yes.
Yeah. Those days, they used to be viboko. Because I had been jailed for 6 months.
Yes.
And I think 2 strokes of the cane. And you remember, I used to hear of the strokes of cane.
Yeah.
I used to hear if you are beaten, those strokes of the cane,
and you'll need a doctor after that.
You need a doctor after that. I even heard that some convicts used to lose their manhood or ability, because of those canes. They were serious. So we were put in a certain unit, because you have to get your canes, and then be transferred to the main jail. So I'm waiting there. On Wednesdays were the cane days, set aside for caning.
Yes.
So, and it used to be a big thing in jail, because guys were scared, you know, and the cops are so, you know,
psyched up.
So that morning I'm called into the warden's office.
Yes.
Main warden's office. George, sasa kesi yako tulirudisha appeal na sasa hutachapwa viboko.
Wait, it is them who sent an appeal?
That's what I was told. Kesi yako tulirudisha appeal, hautachapwa viboko. So jitayarisha uende main.
So it's not an issue that there's no electricity, things like that.
It's grace of God.
Wow.
And I'm this young man. I think I'm 20, 21. So I end up in the main jail. It was annex, where you have to work in the fields, you know, digging, gardening, all that stuff.
Yes.
So I did my 6 months, and then I was released. I went back to Kisauni. I found these guys had shifted. So that night I went to this nightclub. Some guys did mchango for me, taxi drivers. I told them I just want to go to Nairobi.
Yes.
So I find my way to Nairobi, and then there was a church that I used to go to in Parklands, and I'd met a certain couple, German couple.
Yes.
So I was told that they were working at a vocational training school in Survey of Kenya.
Yes.
Survey, yeah. It was called Vocational Training and Production Center, and Benedictine Fathers.
Yes.
So I went there. He had heard of me. So he managed to get me into that college. So I used to work for my fees, and my upkeep. So I get a room in Huruma. So for the next 3 years, I do my training in carpentry and joinery.
Wow.
And then construction. I really worked, you know, because I'd gotten this a new chance in life. Yeah?
Yes.
So I completed, and but I had incidents of relapsing, using, you know, a few days off college and back.
But it's using marijuana and alcohol.
Marijuana and mirror and alcohol. No heroin.
Yes.
So I completed, and this same college had opened a branch in Kilimambogo, Thika. So I'm taken there. I'm employed there as an instructor.
Okay.
So I work in their carpentry and joinery section for like 1.5 years. Start earning, I relapse again. Yeah.
Wow.
I relapse again. You know, alcohol, mirror, and weed. So I lose my job. Find myself now in Huruma. Now living with my younger brother, and now this cycle starts again. Start using, selling my stuff, not interested in work, not interested in anything, just using, you know, existing, using. So so my brother moves out. Can you believe I sold everything, including the bed that I was sleeping on? In the end, I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor. I sold everything, my clothes even. I was walking in slippers.
Wow.
So can't pay rent. So, you know, I just walked out of that room, found myself in Isli. Yeah. Found myself in Isli, and I started surviving on the streets. Yeah.
Isli or Madara Isli?
Isli. By the way, both.
Both.
Yes. Isli, Mathare. Yeah.
It's actually
my
just
main area was 4th Street.
Okay.
You know 4th Street? There used to be those two lojos.
Casino, everything.
Yes. So I survived around. So I used to survive around Isli, and then town, Nyamakema area, Luthuli Avenue. And so what happened for the next 6, 7, 8 years or so, I would mess up in Isli, steal or do something. Cops are looking for me. I would migrate to town, Nyamakema area. Yes. Using weed, smoking, smoking and stealing and all that. Ambassador area, Luthuli Avenue, River Road, you know, Kirinyaga Road. You know that Kasakut, where criminals used to hang out.
Yeah, but all the day ending up in Nyamakema, one or the other.
At the end of the day, ending up in Nyamakema. But let me tell you, it used to be so bad for me, because I even used to steal from my fellow criminals. And you know how it is.
Yeah.
So I migrated to Westlands. I don't know if you remember, a long time ago, there used to be these street boys who used to sleep at Westlands roundabout there.
In the middle.
In the middle.
Uh-huh.
I was one of those guys. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And so around Westlands, now I came into contact with cocaine in Westlands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? I used for some time, became too expensive for me, and I went back to heroin for some time.
Mm-hmm.
And now I started stealing, really burglary around Westlands.
Mm-hmm.
The beatings that I got, my brother, I thank God I'm alive today to share my story. Yeah.
So somebody would ask why, if you're living on the street, but how can you afford cocaine?
Stealing.
Stealing.
Through stealing.
Mm-hmm.
See, I've just told you.
Cocaine is very expensive.
Very expensive. I think it used to cost, and I didn't use it for long. I couldn't manage.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't manage at all. I couldn't. I think I used it for a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I used to hear stories that it used to be very addictive.
Yeah.
Very addictive. So in Westlands, I had now graduated to burglary.
Mm-hmm.
OST, Spring Valley, those areas.
Mm-hmm.
So this one day I'm arrested. And by the way, it was a very high politician at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine? I was found in the first floor in one of the bedrooms by one of the maids. First floor, the bedrooms. And I tell you, kichapo nilipata siku hiyo.
What?
So I'm beaten, and so I'm taken outside, and I managed to escape. I meet some Maasais, coming towards me with arrows, aiming at me. Wewe ni nani? Kaa chini, you know all that. You know? Because now what happened? The house that I had been found in, the two neighboring house, when they had a commotion in this house, they set off the alarms. So it sounded like it was a very serious, robbers who had attacked this home of a very senior politician then. So the police come. You remember days of Mahindra?
Yes.
So I'm thrown into a Mahindra, taken to Spring Valley Police Station. I'm so badly beaten. So the lady of the house follows us to Spring Valley Police Station.
Yes.
She looks at me. So it's like they will now want to, they will be,
they want to book you
they
now.
want to book me in, and there has to be a complainant.
Yes.
What is the case, all that. Because now the police found me outside.
Yes.
As I was being beaten outside the home. So for me, as a sneaky young guy,
yes,
mi sikushikwa kwa nyumba. Mi nilikuwa natafuta kwa ndugu yangu, Kiswahili. Yeah. So the police are confused. So this lady of the house realizes I'm so hurt. Yeah. So she says, no, sitaki kesi. You do what you will do with him. Because I'm bleeding. Yeah, even from the ears. I remember I was bleeding from the ears.
Wow.
And let me tell you, my left hand had been broken and I hadn't known. Yeah? And I'm living on the streets. So so the cops keep me there. I lie to them. I live in Huruma, and I was looking for my uncle's place, and because he had promised me a job as a gardener, stuff like that. So the police picked me up, to 11 p.m. So they picked me up, put me again in the Mahindra, dropped me at Westlands bus stop. and one of them gives me 20 bob.
All bloody and beaten.
All bloody and beaten. I can't walk. I tell you, I'm crawling on the ground. So I remember I crawled behind Aboka bus stop, Nikaka. Yeah. So I managed to go to one of the kiosks on Raptor Road.
Yes.
That was our base. And where a Mira kiosk. They used to sell weed and Mira.
Yes.
Yeah. So I went to one of these fellows and I told him my story. You know? So he gave me a place. I slept till morning and I woke up the following morning. My hand was swollen. Swollen and pain. So at 6 a.m. I walked down to Uhuru Park. I sleep kidogo. And then I can't withstand the pain, so I take myself to a Kenyatta hospital. I give a funny story. I was attacked and all that, but they could look at me, you know, huyu tu ni wale watu wa streets. So I'm put on a plaster cast and a bit of first aid.
Yes.
And so that's where I realized I'd been bleeding in my ears.
From your ears?
From my ears.
Wow.
As I was being taken through a checkup by the doctor. And so I'm put on a plaster cast, you know, all that. Kuna watu wenyu, of course, stories, yes. Yeah. So eventually, I find myself again, Uhuru Park. For the next 1 month, I'm surviving Uhuru Park, Central Park, town, yeah. And eventually I find myself back again, Nyamakema. Can you believe, after a month that plaster was taken off on the street? I didn't go back to hospital.
There was no time.
There was no time. Yeah. So so from there, I think I remember meeting someone who introduced me to Alcoholics Anonymous. So I started attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. Yeah. So I attend meetings, and then there was a priest. It's called Father George.
Yes.
Remember Father George?
I remember Father
Mbai
George.
from Tanzania.
Yes.
So he takes me in. Yeah? Takes me in. No, before that, you know St. Paul's?
Yes.
Chaplaincy Catholic Church.
Yes. University Way.
University Way. There are times I used to jump over the wall and sleep somewhere in a corner. So this morning, one time I oversleep. And the priest, as he making his rounds, he finds me there. Hey, kijana, unafanya nini? Mimi nalala tu hapa. Nyumbani wapi? Ambia nyumbani Huruma. Unafanya nini? Mimi naishi town. So he tells me, come and see me in the evening. So he gives me some little cash. Yeah. So I go see him in the evening.
Yes.
And let me tell you something. All along, I used to attend that church for mass in the evenings.
Yes.
Say my prayers. Yeah. And find my way back into the streets. Naka uko nyuma. Yeah.
Where people won't notice you.
Where people won't notice me. So, and I used to pray for a way out of this life. Yeah. So, so eventually I go see this priest. I give him my story very honestly. And then he asks me, Father Martin, God bless you, Father Martin. Yeah. He asked me, how can I help you? I told him, now I've heard of a rehab in Asumbi. I think it was the only rehab then.
Yeah.
Asumbi. Now I'm talking of the 90s, 99 Apple, 90, 95, 96.
Yeah, should have been the only rehab. Yes.
It was the only rehab then.
Yes.
So he takes me to rehab in Asumbi. Gives me fare, and he tells me, once you get there, tell the administrator to call me. I think he wanted to check whether I'm serious.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah? So I hop on a bus, Kisii bus, to Kisii, Asumbi, and I go, I meet Caleb Angira, now the administrator of Maisha House.
Yes, yes.
Yeah? So I meet him, I give him my story, and he gets in touch with Father Martin. My rehab is paid, and for the next 3 months, I'm at Asumbi. I do very well. Now, while at Asumbi, I'm helping around the rehab.
Yes.
With my carpentry skills and painting, you know, repairs. I was really...
You have a lot of energy now.
Energy now. I've eaten well, I've recovered, you know. I'm enthusiastic about life, you know. So, at the end of these 3 months, something comes up. There's now Kilesi Diocese are constructing a hostel.
Yes.
So they give me a contract to do 60 beds, 60 chairs, 60 tables. I remember very well. So they give me that contract. I do it very well. I come back to Nairobi with a little bit of cash. I rent a place, and so I push on with life. Along the way, I relapse again. Yeah, because remember, I'm going back to my same environment, Huruma.
Yes.
Yeah. So I relapsed, and so I go back to Father Martin.
Yes.
Father Martin contacts Father George, George Dambal. We had this small rehab on Gong Road. So he takes me in. I do my rehabilitation for 3 months, and then I'm attending AA meetings.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm attending AA meetings, and so eventually I stabilize a bit. And now I'm getting older, and I'm working, and I meet this beautiful lady from Meru, and we start a come we stay. We live together like for 2-3 years, and then I relapse again. The relationship breaks up again, and what actually happened, I can't blame her. By the way, she's a late, and what she did was actually to help me, I think, also. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I also had shared my life with her, and so she comes one day and forgives the whole room.
Carries everything.
Carries everything and takes off and leaves my bag of clothes there. So I find myself back in Roy. Now my mom lives in Roy. Yeah. So I have nowhere to live. I first go to Huruma, live with my sis, Kidogo, and then I shift to Ruai. And then to Ruai, I'm still using. Now I started using Chinmira, taking alcohol, smoking cigarettes. Yeah?
Yes.
So, and a bit of stealing. So one time I'm broke. There's this matatu that parks in the neighborhood, and I'm barely 1 week in Roy. So we go, steal the sound system, but of course I'm seen.
The whole sound system, Mama.
Yes.
The one at the dashboard.
Yes. It takes a bit of time. So we are leaving around 5-6 a.m. And so someone sees me, and so as I'm at home, my sis, I think, goes shopping at this shop in the neighborhood, and then there are cops coming looking for me. Kwa kina George ni wapi? So he's asking at the shop, kuna hii mkora inaitwa George, kwa ni wapi? My sister is waiting to buy milk and bread. So she hears. So she runs home. George, I remember her telling me, unalala hapa na makarao wanakuja kushika. Wah! Sasa ni kutoka mbio. Nikaenda, nikachukua mat, tao ni ndogo. Juu tao, I've messed up like every corner of town.
Yes.
Yeah? I've messed up like everywhere. Yeah? So that's when, and remember, this time, I've been introduced to AA meetings,
Yes.
Alcoholics Anonymous. I've known that there is a way out of all this mess.
Yes.
And I knew the only way out of this mess is to stop using. Yeah? So I had this 24 hours a day booklet.
Yes.
One we have. So that I had been gifted by, you remember Brother Peter? Brother Peter used to attend AA meetings.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
So that book I always kept it. So so I used to read it. I had the big book, the Alcoholics Anonymous big book. Those somehow I never managed to dispose. And of course I had my Bible somewhere, always, yeah. And I would go down on my knees and pray at times, you know. Tears streaming down my face, you know, my eyes. Get me out of this, you know. Get me out of this, God. Get me out of this, Jesus, you know. And so that day, now after the incident in Ruai,
yes.
So I take off for Murang'a. Murang'a, I don't know anyone. I've never lived there. But I know my dad's shamba, where we had buried him.
Yes.
It's all bush. There's no development. There's no home. There's nothing.
It's his shamba.
It's his shamba. Of course, then that's mine now. That's ours.
Yes.
So I go to my uncle's place. Now my dad's brother is a late. God rest him. God rest his soul. So I talked to him. I told him, Uncle, I've come. And I told him in Kikuyu, Dokagwaka. He asked me, umekuja kujenga, that's umekuja kujenga. So do you have any money? I told him no. And I told you I had only 50 shillings in my pocket. I had this faith, yeah, that if I manage to stay sober,
yes,
I'll manage to build my own place. So by then I had put together some little cash. After this lady left me, I went and built a 10 by 10 mabati structure,
yes,
in Ruai. And so I asked my mother to demolish it and send the mabati home. And that's what she did. She was very happy to get rid of me.
You transferred the problem elsewhere.
Yes, because I tell you, I had really put my family in lots of mess.
Yes.
And she tried her best, but it just couldn't work. So so I ended up building that structure in the middle of bush. Yeah. And there's no toilet. I know no one around. I'm not known. But they have a sneak background that this is not a good guy. Yeah? This is not a good guy. But of course, in recovery, we know guys in recovery whose usage makes them go into crime. They're not bad guys.
Yes.
It's the using that has forced them into crime, yeah, so that they can feed their habit. So in any case, I had belief in myself. So I tell you, for like 2 months, I went through cold turkey in that car room.
Wow.
Yeah, and I made up my mind. I leave Murang'a for Nairobi when I'm clean and sober, and if possible after 1 year. And that's what I did.
Wow.
So I lived in that car room, cold turkey, for 2 months. I'm diarrheaing, I have no money, I have nothing, you know. I'm all sickly, you know. That's the photo you saw.
Yes.
Me carrying the mabati. It was around that period. Yeah? So I'm really beat, but have this very hard conviction that this time I have to make it on my own.
Yes. Yes.
So I manage, and I start getting my health back, pole pole. You know, I get a jembe, panga. You know, I start working the land. I start working the land.
Yes. And
surviving like those guys survive out there. If I tell you surviving, I survived in Murang'a. But I tell you, I used to feel like a king at the end of the day.
You have land.
I have land. I have not used. I've not used. I've not messed up anyone's life. Yeah, I've not messed up in life. You know, I'm one day sober, one more day clean. You know, I'm working towards my 1 year. You know, yeah.
Yes.
By then, I'm only smoking cigarettes. Then, and then I had this structure. You know, I would wake up. I tell you, it was really tough. I couldn't even light this kuni fire. Sometimes I remember I went hungry once or twice because I couldn't light the fire. And my matchbox is running out of sticks. Yeah. So, but eventually, I trained myself. I survived. So I went and bought mchicha. I did a kitchen garden. And then I used to buy maize. Yeah. And do my unga. And so my diet was basically mchicha, githeri, uji. You know, that's it. Yeah. And now, slowly, in the neighborhood, they realized this young man is not.
He's not the gangster that we
thought.
He's
not the gangster that we were told about. Because I used to build structures now. I did my own 10-feet toilet, dug it on my own, built the structure, yeah, out of matope on my own. Now what happened, what I realized that now the community has started accepting me is when I did that toilet. I found the young boys coming from nowhere with jerry cans of water, you know, and they helped me put up the structure. So I realized, well, then there's something happening, yeah. So I survived there for 1 year, and as I'm surviving there,
our time is awesome.
Let me round up now. Like you said, 1 hour will fly.
We'll fly.
So maybe we need to do this another day.
We'll continue.
So eventually, I do my 1 year in Muranga, 1 year and some 2 months or so. But there's a program. I even have bought myself a small radio. So I think it was Wednesdays, 2 p.m. There's a program I used to listen to. Used to be brought by Kenya AIDS Relief Program, something of the sort. So I used to listen, and so they would talk of symptoms of HIV, blah blah blah. You know, all these things. They used to bring in speakers. So I would listen. So one time I had put some money together, and the symptoms I used to hear about, I'm seeing them. Yeah. So one time I just get discouraged. I come to Nazareth Hospital, and I test. Those days we used to have this rapid test.
Rapid testing. It was a laser test.
It was a laser test. You had to wait, and you have to write a requisition, and wait for a week or so.
Yes.
So I come back a week after, and I meet this sister, come for my results. So he brings out the card, looks at it, puts it aside. Taongea na sister mkubwa. Kajua, taongea na sister mkubwa.
Okay.
Iko maneno hapa. But Bernard, as I was waiting for my results, I had cancelled myself. I kept asking myself 2 questions. If I tested positive, how will I live going forward? If I test negative, how will I live going forward? Yeah. So I had made a decision for both probabilities. Okay. So I get my test. So sister mkubwa, sijui nini, habari yako George, you know that cartoon counselors told me. Habari yako George, naishi wapi? Muranga, blah blah blah, naishi na nani? Peke yangu, blah blah blah. So hii test iko hivi na hivi. Nikigeuza hii kadi uone hii sign, ujue uko positive. Ukiona hii sign, ujue uko negative. So he turns the card around and okay, sawa. Tested positive. So one thing I did, I smiled. Sister looks at me, George, aushtuki? Mkaambia, nashtuka kwa nini? Hizo ni results. Na niko hapa. Na niko alive. Forgetting, for me, being tested HIV positive is not an issue. For me, the issue is if I relapsed.
That was more dangerous to you than HIV.
Than HIV. That's how I had taken my recovery. That's how serious my recovery was, or important to me. Yeah?
Yes.
Because I knew so long as I'm sober and clean, I'll manage my HIV status.
Which year was that?
Now that is 2000.
The year 2000.
The year 2000. I remember very well. The year 2000.
Wow.
And this is 20?
This is 2021.
Yes.
And that's a year that you found out. So you might have gotten infected even
earlier.
Way earlier.
Way earlier.
Mid-90s maybe.
Yes. So I think we get there. So
we'll put a pause. We'll put a pause on the story.
Bernard, so I thank God that I'm clean and sober.
Yes.
And that I'm helping others in their recovery, and that it has been a journey, and it's still a journey. And I really appreciate people like you. We talk, and you have me on your show today.
The question that I wanted to ask, because I think next time we'll talk about relapse, and I hope it's sometime this month, depending on your schedule.
Yes, yes.
We'll focus mainly on relapse at that particular time. But now I'd like you to speak about just what you do, the projects that you have ongoing, what you plan to do in the future, where you are at. You can even share your contacts and where people can reach you.
Yeah, thank you, Benji.
Yes.
Yeah, right now I'm almost completing my counseling psychology diploma course, which I have kept postponing. But I managed to set up a rehabilitation and treatment center in Murang'a County, which has been functioning operational for the last 6 years now. And I've helped quite a many clients. Some have really done well in their lives. Yeah. So that's what I do mainly with my wife. I'm married. I told you, with 4 kids. I have a very supportive wife. Thank you, Joyce. And thank you for your support always, and believe in me. And so we have this rehabilitation and treatment center. It's a 40-bed facility, and we've been helping quite a few, and especially alcoholics and drug addicts. And so that's what I do. And in future also we are hoping to open a drop-in center, either in Thika or Nairobi. So a halfway house.
For those who do not know, what is a drop-in center?
A drop-in center is a place where, as you've realized from my story, that I survived a lot on the streets.
Yes.
I had nowhere to shower, nowhere I could go in and talk to someone, nowhere I could go to get clinical help, for my various injuries.
Yes.
And a place to shower, get a meal, a free meal, a place where we can help to get addicts and alcoholics out of the streets.
Yes.
So just like a place whereby they can drop in, spend some time, and go back to their
everyday lives.
Their everyday lives. And if they feel like, then we'll be there to help them to move to the next level or stage in recovery.
Okay, so basically a drop-in center's services are free?
Free. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You asked if I could give my contacts.
Yes, please.
Yes.
How can people reach you if they want to speak to you or do anything with you?
Yeah, our email address is stmartinsrehab4@gmail.com. That's stmartinsrehab4@gmail.com. And our phone numbers, or my phone number, is 0712 269 356. That is 0712 269 356.
Wow.
Yes. And thank you for having me. Thank you.
This story looks like we might even have to do it in a 3-part series.
Anytime.
But that's the greatness of the Lord.
Yes.
The journey that people start on in their lives. We cannot try to compress it into 1 hour,
Exactly.
as you have seen. And that was just the highlights, even.
Yes, I didn't go into details.
You didn't even get into details.
Yes.
So we hope and pray that you'll be with us another day. And I will schedule that. My dear viewers, that has been We Do Recover. This was our guest, Mr. George Irongo.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Bernard Mwangi. And shalom. Have a lovely, lovely day ahead of you.
You are watching